For decades, Vladimir Putin believed he had one perfect weapon buried in Eastern Europe, a silent pressure point he could squeeze whenever he wanted. A frozen conflict, a trapped region, a small country forced to obey. But what if that weapon just turned against him without a single shot being fired? Because something extraordinary is happening right now in Moldova, and it's not just another regional shift. It's a quiet geopolitical earthquake that could reshape the balance of power in Eastern Europe. And at the center of it all is a place most people barely notice on the map: Transnistria. For over 30 years, this narrow strip of land has functioned as Russia's hidden lever inside Moldova. Around 1,500 Russian troops stationed there, guarding one of the largest Soviet-era ammunition depots in Europe. Not just a military presence, but a constant threat, a reminder that Moldova could never fully break free from Moscow's influence. That was the plan. But now that plan is collapsing. Moldova just made a move that stunned Moscow. It officially walked away from the Commonwealth of Independent States, the very system Russia built to keep former Soviet nations under its control. On paper, it looked like cooperation. In reality, it was a leash, and Moldova just snapped it. This wasn't symbolic, this was strategic, because by tearing up those agreements, Moldova didn't just distance itself politically, it directly challenged the legal basis Russia has used for years to justify its presence in Transnistria. Overnight, that peacekeeping force started to look a lot more like an illegal occupation. And here's where it gets even more dangerous for Putin. Those Russian troops, now they're effectively stranded, cut off, surrounded. With Ukraine closing access from one side and Moldova tightening control from the other, that entire force is now isolated. No fresh supplies, no troop rotations, no modern reinforcements, just aging equipment, outdated systems in a shrinking strategic purpose. What once was a pressure point is now a liability. And that's the real story here. Because this isn't a military defeat, it's something worse for Putin. It's a strategic reversal, the kind that exposes weakness without a single battlefield loss, the kind that makes other countries start asking a very dangerous question. If Moldova can break free, why can't we? And that ripple effect is already beginning. Look at Armenia. For years, it relied on Russia for protection, but when crisis hit, Moscow didn't show up. And now, Armenia is slowly turning away, rethinking its alliances, questioning everything it once trusted. That's how empires weaken, not always through war, but through lost credibility. And Putin is watching it happen in real time. But the biggest nightmare scenario for the Kremlin might still be ahead, because there's a growing conversation, once unthinkable, that is now gaining real momentum. The idea of Moldova uniting with Romania. Same language, shared history, deep cultural ties, and increasingly, public support. If that happens, everything changes overnight. Moldova wouldn't just shift west, it would instantly fall under NATO's umbrella. That means those stranded Russian troops in Transnistria would suddenly find themselves surrounded not just by local forces, but by a modern NATO-aligned military structure. Think about that. From a position of intimidation to complete irrelevance. From a forward base to a trapped outpost. That's the scale of what's unfolding here. And this is where a serious analysis cuts through the noise, because for years Putin has projected strength, control, dominance, inevitability. But situations like this expose something very different. They show the limits of that power when confronted with coordinated strategy, political courage, and shifting alliances. This isn't about Moldova being stronger militarily, it's about being smarter strategically. Instead of confrontation, Moldova is using isolation. Instead of escalation, it's using integration with Europe, with economic systems, with long-term partnerships that make Russian pressure less effective. And it's working. Factories in Transnistria are shutting down. The region's economy, once propped up by Russian energy, is collapsing. Influence is fading. Control is slipping. Slowly, quietly, but undeniably. And that's what makes this moment so significant, because this isn't just a local story, it's a signal that the old post-Soviet order is breaking, a signal that Russia's grip on its near abroad is not as permanent as it once seemed, and a signal that smaller nations, once seen as vulnerable, are learning how to push back, not with tanks, but with strategy. Now that doesn't mean the danger is over, far from it. When direct control weakens, Putin often turns to hybrid tactics, disinformation, political interference, internal destabilization, and Moldova is already preparing for that. Because when you can't win from the outside, you try to break things from within. But here's the critical shift, the mindset of the people. A new generation in Moldova is emerging, one that doesn't look back to Moscow with nostalgia, but forward to Europe with ambition. And once that psychological shift happens, it's incredibly hard to reverse. That's the real turning point, because power isn't just about territory or troops, it's about belief. And Moldova is starting to believe it doesn't need Russia anymore. And that may be the most dangerous development of all for Putin. Because if one country proves it can escape the system, others will follow. And when that happens, the entire structure he spent decades building doesn't just weaken, it collapses.